In a year or two, the Minnesota Vikings might look back at this moment and realize they made a massive mistake because the arrival of Kyler Murray could either save their offense or completely derail the career of J.J. McCarthy. And if that happens, it wouldn't be the first time an NFL team gave up on a young quarterback too soon. In the NFL, young quarterbacks are told one thing over and over again: your rookie contract is your opportunity, your chance to prove you're the guy, your chance to grow with the franchise, your chance to make mistakes and learn from them. But sometimes the league doesn't give you that chance. Sometimes the numbers lie. Sometimes the narrative moves faster than the development. And right now, that's exactly what's happening with J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. Because if you look at the stat line from 2025, it looks ugly. 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 1,632 yards, and suddenly the conversation is shifted. The Vikings might replace him. The Vikings might bring in a veteran. The Vikings might already be moving on. But here's the problem with that narrative. It ignores the context. And context is everything. But to really understand why this situation exists, you have to go back to how the Minnesota Vikings handled the quarterback position behind the scenes. Because this offseason move didn't just appear out of nowhere. For a while now, the idea of Minnesota pursuing Kyler Murray has felt almost inevitable, a fait accompli. And if you look at the timeline, it actually tells you a lot about how the Vikings view their quarterback situation. Last season, when J.J. McCarthy's rookie campaign started to spiral because of injuries and inconsistency, the Vikings quietly started exploring contingency plans. Not a full reset, not a panic move, but something the organization has done before, a quarterback reclamation project. Remember, in 2024, the Vikings experimented with this exact strategy when they brought in veterans like Sam Darnold and later Daniel Jones. The idea was simple: bring in a talented quarterback who needed a reset and let him compete inside Kevin O'Connell's system. But this time, the plan never fully materialized because Darnold and Jones both chose situations where they had clearer paths to starting jobs, with the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts, which left Minnesota with only one option: go all in on their young quarterback. Give McCarthy every starter rep and essentially run a sink or swim experiment with the 10th pick in the 2024 draft. Unfortunately, the season never stabilized, and now the Vikings are back where they started, still searching for the best answer at the most important position in football. Which brings us back to Kyler Murray. From a football perspective, the move actually makes a lot of sense. Murray instantly gives head coach Kevin O'Connell another dynamic weapon. Now, he isn't a perfect fit. Murray has never been known as the cleanest on-schedule quarterback. There have been stretches where throwing over the middle, a major component of a West Coast system, has been inconsistent. But the Vikings clearly believe they can adapt. Murray spent the last 3 seasons working with coordinator Drew Petzing, who comes from a similar coaching tree. So the offensive language and philosophy won't be completely foreign. And O'Connell is one of the sharper offensive minds in the league when it comes to building around a quarterback's strengths. Where Murray really becomes dangerous is off-script football. When the play breaks down, when protection collapses, when the defense thinks the play is over, that's where his mobility and creativity become a nightmare. And when you combine that with Minnesota's explosive group of skilled players, you start to see why the Vikings might view this as a worthwhile gamble. But there's another layer to this move. Because while Murray could elevate the offense, his presence completely changes the trajectory of J.J. McCarthy's career. For the first time since being drafted, the young quarterback is facing real pressure for his job. And sometimes that pressure does one of two things. It either breaks a young quarterback or it ignites him. Competition can force development. It can sharpen preparation. It can expose weaknesses that need to be fixed. And that's exactly what Minnesota might be hoping for. If McCarthy responds the right way, the Vikings could suddenly have clarity at quarterback. If he doesn't, the team might already have a contingency plan standing right behind him. But this is also where organizations have to be careful, because there's a difference between competition and panic. If the Vikings bring in Kyler Murray simply to push McCarthy, that's one thing. But if they've already made up their minds, if the young quarterback is already on borrowed time, then the franchise risks repeating one of the NFL's most common mistakes, abandoning development too early. The honeymoon for McCarthy is clearly over, but the evaluation still isn't complete. And that's a line every team has to be careful about crossing. At the end of the day, this situation might actually define the next chapter of Minnesota football. If Kyler Murray returns to form, the Minnesota Vikings suddenly have a dangerous offense again. If J.J. McCarthy responds to the challenge and elevates his play, the franchise may still have its quarterback of the future. But one way or another, the Vikings are about to find out something very important, whether their young quarterback was dealt a bad hand or whether the pressure of real competition will turn him into the player they drafted him to be. And in the NFL, that answer usually comes faster than anyone expects. And this is the reality of the NFL. Quarterback development isn't linear. Some players explode immediately. Others take years before the game finally slows down. Right now, J.J. McCarthy is standing at one of the most important crossroads of his career, because the arrival of Kyler Murray in Minnesota isn't just another roster move for the Minnesota Vikings. It's a challenge, a warning, and maybe even an opportunity. Either McCarthy responds and proves he's the future of this franchise, or the Vikings might discover their answer was standing right in front of them all along. And in this league, when a team starts searching for quarterbacks, the clock starts ticking faster than anyone realizes, because in the NFL, talent matters, but timing might matter even more.